Hi everybody, so today we are going to build a simple command line password manager, and this password manager is going to have the ability to save, to store and retrieve password from our database. So before we get started, let's have a quick demo of what we are going to be building today. So I'm going to, since it's going to be a command line manager, we're going to run it from our command line. If you're on Windows, you can use your CMD. I'm actually on Linux right now, and if we run that script right now like this, we get this kind of message, that usage. We can say manager.py and pass the argument new to create a new password, and then or to store a new password, and then we can say manager and then the name of the website after we stored in our database the name of the website so that we can retrieve it. So now if I say new, and you can see enter website name, and I can say Facebook, and then enter the password for Facebook. I'm going to just enter a random password, and then enter email associated with Facebook. I'm going to say abdul@email.com, and then password successfully created. Now if I want to retrieve that, all I need to do is run that script and pass the argument Facebook, and then you can see that I have password for Facebook is that. And if that password is not available, let's say for a website that I have not stored its password, let's say Twitter, you can see no password for Twitter. So that's what we are going to be building, and let us get building. So right here we need to import two things, so which is going to be the sys, and then import SQLite. So since we are going to be using SQLite for our database, so this sys is going to be for the argument from the command line, and then we're going to define a function called create table. So I'm saying db equal which is database equal SQLite3 dot connect, so dot database dot db. So why I'm adding dots is here is that so that this is going to be an hidden file, so we won't mistakenly delete it, and all our password that we stored in there is gone. So to connect, and this is going to automatically create our file for us. And then now to let's say statements, so this is what we are going to be executing. So it's going to be an SQL statement. So if you are familiar with SQL, this is going to be easier to understand. So I'm going to say create table if not exists manager. So I'm going to call the name of this table manager, so since we are going to be managing our passwords. And then what we want this table to have, let's add a semicolon here. So again, say an ID, which is going to be an integer, and then a primary key, and then we can say primary key, then auto increment. Then we can have our website name, of course. So I'm going to say website, then text. So this is going to be a text, and then not no. So we are saying this one cannot be empty. You can't just put an empty website name. And then want to say the password, of course, is also a text, and then not no, and then we need the email column, then text also, not no. So that's all for the statement, and then we can now define our cursor, which is db.cursor, and then we can just say cursor core that executes. So we want to execute the statement that we um, defined, and then we can just say db.close. So, and then we can just say print database created successfully. So, well, just write successfully, anyhow you want to write it. So now if I save and then I then call that function, when I run that, you can see that I have database created successfully. So if the code can run up to this point, that means everything worked perfectly. So why I added this if not exist is that if we don't add this, so let me remove that, and then you can see that I have an error here. So table manager already exists. So if that is there, it's not going to recreate it. So since we are going to be always calling this function, so that whenever somebody that have never used it before, so that it's going to create that table for him, and then so that's why we are adding if not exist. So now we need to define our function, which is going to be create new password. So creating new password, we need to also connect to our database. So sqli3.connect database.db, and then we can just say statements. So this time around, since we want to be inserting into our database, it's also going to be a multi-line string, and then we can say insert into manager, and what we want to insert, what we are going to, the columns are going to be the website. So the website, the password, so password, and then our email. So then we can say values should be, so we are going to just add a placeholder, which are going to be just this. So there are 3. So now that we have that defined, now we need to just say what we want to insert into there. So we need to ask the user, right? So the user is going to say website. We're going to say website equal input. So enter a website name, and then we need to get also the password. So password equal input. So here we're going to add a formatted string and enter password for the website that I entered. So website, like that, and then we can say email equal input. A formatted string also, enter email associated with website. So that should do the magic for us. And then now what we need to also define is our cursor. So I'm going to say db.cursor, and then we can just say core.execute. So what we want to execute now is the statement, and then the parameters we are going to be passing to this instead of this question marks, we want to pass this website password and email there. So we're going to say a tuple here, and we're going to say website, then password, then email. So saving that, and then if we say db.commit, so we are committing. So if you don't actually commit, it's actually not going to work, since it's like you should write something to a file and you don't save that file, it is not going to get written, right? So, and then we can just say db.close, and then we can just print a formatted string also, password for website successfully created. So now if I run that script, I can actually run that script. I can actually run that from this Sublime text, but I'm not going to run that. I'm going to run it from my command line. You can see that I have this .database.db, and if I say remove the show hidden files, so you can have that, and we can only view that if we show hidden files, which is the database right here. So I'm going to open that in terminal, and we are going to say Python 3.9 manager.py, and you can see database successfully created. Sorry, we didn't run this function, so we are not going to do that yet. Let's just quickly define other functions. So I'm going to say define a function called retrieve underscore password. So we need to say to retrieve, we need to also connect to our database. So SQLite 3.connect to database.db. So we can just say statement is going to be call. So in order to retrieve password, we need to pass an argument of the website. So I'm going to say statement is alright. Select password. So select the password column from manager. So from the table manager, select the password column where, so we are saying where website equal this semicolon again, and then we can just say core equal db.cursor, and then we can just say core dot execute statements. Here also we need to pass in the parameters. Since here we are passing a placeholder, we need to also pass in another argument for the parameters. So it is going to be the website here, and then I'm going to say website, then a semicolon, so that it's going to know that it is a tuple. Otherwise you are going to get an error. So now we can just say we need to save that as items, because it's actually going to output a kind of I don't know what they call it, but it's not going to be a readable something. So we need to iterate through the items. So I'm going to say password underscore list equal I for item, for I in items. So just like that, and then to retrieve that exact password is going to be to return password list index -1 and then index 0. So just like that. So we are just saying retrieve, because it's going to actually retrieve tuples, a list and a tuple. So we need to get the the tuple of index of the first index, and inside the tuple we need to get the first index also from the tuple list. So that's going to do it for us. Now we need to just define our system arguments. So we're going to say if sys.arg is greater than 1. So if sys.arg is greater than 1, what did I mean by sys.arg? So this is the sys.arg. So this manager is the first argument, and then this Twitter is the second argument. So if it is greater than 1, that means there is more argument here. So since this is only 1, that means if it is greater than 1, there is more argument here. So we want to say if sys.arg index of 1, which is that index, which is this one, index of this one, is equal new, that is equal this keyword new, then we want to call the create new password function, since whenever we pass the argument of new, we want to create a new password. Else, then it's probably a name of a website that the user wants to retrieve its password. So we're going to call the create retrieve password instead. So retrieve password, and if you know, we are passing actually an argument to the retrieve password, and the argument is going to be the sys.arg index of 1. So I'm going to just copy that and paste that right here, and then of course we need to print that since we are returning it, and I'm going to say print. So otherwise, else, if sys.arg is not equal that, we need to print, let's say, a multi-line string, and then we're going to say usage. So telling the user usage, so it's going to say manage.py, manager.py new, to create a new password, and then manager.py, then the website's name as argument, to retrieve the website password, just like that. So we are going to run this also. So I think I have that here, and then let's say password manager.py. Now, well, we have an error. So here I'm supposed to say length, so that means the length of sys.arg. It's my mistake. So if I run that again, and you can see that we have this usage, blah 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 blah. And now if I say password let's first get rid of this print statement right here, and then if I say password manager.py new, you can see we have this thing. Enter a password name. I'm going to say Facebook, and after the website password, I'm going to just enter a random password, and then enter email associated with Facebook. I'm going to say after@email.com, and then you can see password for Facebook created successfully. So if now I want to retrieve that password for Facebook, I'm going to pass the argument of Facebook, and you can see we have this password exactly the same as the password we stored. So to decorate this to look more amazing, let's just add a formatted string, and then we're going to pass password for so website is that. So now if we run that again, and you can see password for Facebook is that. So this is our simple password manager, and if you want the full source code to this password manager, you can find it on my GitHub account, and I've actually created a more complex version of this password manager, so that you can even create multiple users, and each users have their password stored, right? So that means there is a kind of login system and user management system in that, and you can also find that in my GitHub account in the link in the description down below. So if you are having any errors creating this, you can actually comment in the comment box below, and if you appreciate this video, you can give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this kind of content. Yeah, and that's what I have for you this time. See you next time. Bye. Thank you.